Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. And here comes Those Were the Days. Show about old TV, new eyes, you know the gist. This week we are wrapping up variety shows. And it is my week. I'm Amy, and I have picked an old classic. I described it last week as if we were reading Onion articles from 50 years in the future. And yeah, this is a heck of a one. I do think that if this show were made today, that BuzzFeed would have a quiz telling us which one of the Laugh-In regulars we are. And so, with our very own Dan Rowan, it's Steven.
Oh, I like to have my classic variety TV mixed with a slightly off-color social commentary and jokes you'd never say in polite society today. I had a good time.
Our very own Dick Martin, Audie.
Okay, so let's edit this show together. Let's see what we got. We got the intro, we got Pam's trick, we got a racial joke, sock it to me. Okay. Let's see. News, dance, sock it to me. Okay. Here comes the judge. Okay, we got that. Another joke. Oh, another racial joke. Okay. Oh, Russian joke now. That's different. Okay, sock it to me. Here comes the judge. Sock it to me. Here comes the judge. Sock it to me. Here comes the judge. Okay. Oh, the Olympics. Yeah, the Olympics is good. That'll be some good stuff. Okay. Let's see. Oh, more racial jokes. Got it. Okay. Yep. All right. Sock it to me. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Sock it to me. Oh, we're going to let Sammy sing. No, that's just a joke. Okay. All right. And then we got the end with everybody's telling jokes. Okay, cool.
And our very own Ruth Buzzy, Travis.
Tonight's show is brought to you by the Gizmonic Institute, not just another face in a red jumpsuit, Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated, and the Olive Garden. When you're here, you're not anywhere else.
Well. Yeah, so Rowan and Martin's Laughing. This particular episode is from 1968. And I felt like the jokes fell into two categories. Incomprehensibly lost to time and could be on Saturday Night Live this week. There's a couple of them that seem off color, but I've stopped to think about them, and actually a couple of them are like surprisingly astute. So this show is wild. It's wild. It's fast. Like we had with Hee Haw, and we're just gonna put in as many jokes as possible. It had a lot of special guests, several of them that were not credited in the beginning of the show. I'm curious to see if we caught all of them. And it had a few sort of sketches that would reoccur every week, and then everything else would sort of change. The big one being the party at the beginning, which I did love. So this show is very precious to me. I've talked about it a couple times. This was my little sister's favorite show to watch when we were very small, and that seems incomprehensible to me now.
I think that deserves an aw.
Yeah, she loved Goldie Hawn more than anything, which I do understand.
Mhm.
I myself, oh, what the heck is her name? I've lost it now. Joanne Worley speaks to me on a deeply personal level. I was like, yes. I'm going to assume that the general level of knowledge of Laugh-In prior to this time was aware, but maybe not super familiar. Is that like a fair assessment?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Pretty much. Like, I remember Laugh-In, but it's more aware that Laugh-In existed than having like a very like good knowledge of things that would go on with it.
I had a hard time picking an episode, as I said last week, because there's a lot of good ones. I picked this one for a few reasons. One of them being that it does have the bit with Goldie Hawn with body paint, which I felt like, because that's a recurring thing that is not in everyone, but I felt like it was an important one because go-go dancing, why not?
I actually wrote a note
Right.
that it's not the 60s until someone's in a bikini with body paint dancing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't even know
that's
what
fair.
decade it is unless that happens. I'm like, oh, 60s. Got it. And doing this whole dance, like,
Oh yeah.
whatever this is, like white
Well, because
people
that's what you
dance.
can do in a cage in go-go boots.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
good.
like it. I feel like I could do that dance. There's not a whole lot of choreography. It's just more like jerky
Well,
motions.
yeah, we'll paint
All
some
right.
Saturday
You
Night
heard it.
Live skits on you, and
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
have at it.
You heard it. Grab the body paint and the bikini.
I'm
Steven swim
ready.
in
I
the
could.
cage.
Let's do it. Those were the days. Anniversary show. Let's go.
So the show starts with the intro in which Dan tries to introduce the show, and Dick inevitably screws it up with his incompetence slash complete just lack of awareness, which I thought was very good. Um, I feel like some of the guest stars on this particular episode would probably have been more interesting if it were 1968. I did not know who Pam Austin was, which is fine. I didn't really know who Joey Bishop was, which is also fine. Um, and it's fine. I did not realize that this show is where we get beautiful downtown Burbank from,
Mhm.
which is
Right.
just a thing in my lexicon, and I had no idea that this is where it came from.
Yeah, and like Gary Owen as the
Gary
announcer, of
Owen's
course,
so good.
was fantastic. Which is what I wanted to go for, but I don't quite have a Gary Owen voice.
No.
But he didn't announce the sponsors. That was one thing watching this on Tubi that was great. Is he would announce that there were sponsors coming, and then it was just 30 seconds of a blank
Music,
screen
bed music, yeah,
That was
with
amazing.
bed
which
music.
is
It was
fun. I thought
awesome.
that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot because at first I'm like, wait, did, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then I figured out what it was. I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is brilliant. This is a great way. Like I just loved it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I was so confused when that was happening, and then I figured it out.
Yeah.
I want to point out to the audio listeners also, Travis did put his hand to his ear during his intro,
It
and
was
I knew
very
exactly what
important.
he was doing based on that motion. I'm like, okay, I
Mhm.
got him. So the audio
Mhm.
listeners really missed out. I'm just saying, they catch
It
it on
was
YouTube.
it was hard to figure out too. Like I knew I wanted to do that, but it was hard to figure out what joke to make because I needed something longer than just and now it's time for a little number 17. Like that's a great joke. It's just too short. I needed more.
So we go from the intro into the party, which watching a bunch of episodes. I didn't watch all of the episodes, but I did because it's like the first real bit. I did watch like a lot of the party scenes, and they're kind of great. Like the cowboy that's there, that's like, I don't have a problem with minorities, but what happens when there's more of them than there are of us? And I'm like, you could tell that joke right now. Like
Yeah, you could.
that's
Yeah.
on Saturday Night Live next week. I don't nothing, and it's sad when things have not changed. But here
When
we
you
are.
watch these classic TV shows and you go, "Oh snap, that's a conversation that could be had right now," you're like, "We don't
Mhm.
grow."
Mhm.
It's when you
No.
realize like ancient Greece was doing the same thing, making the same
Yeah.
comments. We've always
Um,
been this bad.
I think my favorite one was probably the my grandfather's a sexagenarian. Oh, at his age. Actually, basically all of Dick's, because it was that one and the like. How will I know you still love me when we're married? Oh, baby, come on. You know I love married women.
His character throughout the show just so good.
hmm
I think the underrated bit for him in this was the recurring bit with the window.
Yeah.
Oh
Was
yeah, so
That was
good.
so
great.
that was one of the things I had so much fun with in this episode, and I watched a couple of other ones too, is the mix of humor.
Mm-hmm.
You would have some very like silly physical humor. You would have really smart kind of almost Abbott and Costello like routines, like vaudeville type routines.
Yeah.
And yeah, that bit with the window got me every single time. Like
Just
I could not help but laugh every time.
Trying to think of how they put that set together to get that to work so many different ways.
it was good.
When
It
the
was
arm
good.
reached out and pulled the window shut on him, I was dead. I was just it was over for me. It was that simple. I'm just
Because
saying.
it was
was
the
that one?
perfect, like, slow
It
arm.
was
It wasn't
just
like
Yes.
the arm that came. It was like the slow close, and then he's looking down like, "Who was that?"
That was good. And
So
when
good.
when he goes to lift the window and the door goes up
Yeah,
behind him,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
it was also very good.
It just and that was just wild, right? Because it's there's no context. It's not anything. It's filler,
Yeah.
really. But it was
Mhm.
hysterical.
Yeah,
Um,
just a beautiful non sequitur that you could throw in everywhere.
Sammy Davis Jr. had some amazing jokes in this episode. Like it was like some Key and Peele level stuff. It was really funny. The reoccurring joke with the Klansman was just like so you just see four Klansmen standing there, and Sammy Davis Jr. walks out from between them, and he goes, "I'm sure you're wondering why I've asked you all here." What? And then later, he's standing there, and one walks up to him and hands him a piece of paper for a signature. He's like, "Yeah, my pleasure." Like, what are we doing? The
It
Tylenol
came out
one
of
was the one that killed me, though.
that one broke me.
It was
That
so
really did.
funny. I was like, "Oh no. Oh no, this is too much."
Mm-hmm.
Um there was the recurring sort of it was another one like Dick's window things with Dan and Ruth Buzzy trying to have a drink together. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just so like first it's like Oktoberfest and they just like clank their beer steins and beer goes everywhere. And then there's they're having a cup of tea and she just like pours it into the saucer to drink it and he's like, okay. He
Yeah,
puts
sure.
down his
That's how
cigarette
we do it.
because he's never not smoking
Yeah.
Right.
Good
basically
Lord.
this entire show.
It-
Um
Dan Rowan and name
mhm.
Twilight Zone. Rod Serling.
Oh, Rod Serling. Yeah.
Like if they're on screen, they're smoking.
Yeah.
Just always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sammy Davis Jr. was that way half the time
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah.
There was at one point just a quick cut to him holding a cigarette. Just
Right? Just here's Sammy.
nothing.
Okay.
I feel like the editors must have been on something. Not weed makes you too sleepy, but like like
Oh, somebody was
something a
on
little more
something during the show. It was
energetic.
high speed. I told Stephanie asked me how it was. She didn't get to watch it with me. I said it was like watching Hee Haw, but with class. Hee Haw with class. There's people in suits.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I
Yeah.
said that Hee Haw was laughing recorded at a Texas Roadhouse is
Yeah.
because it just like
Mhm.
felt that way.
It's exactly right.
The news one was, I thought, one of the sketches that definitely was a thing that could be told today, where they're doing the like, oh, well, we've got this story about 15 Russians on it, and it
That
want
was
In a
like
fishing boat. Yeah, oh my gosh.
unbelievable.
Like you could just slap Fox News behind those guys and that would have been it.
yeah, that is a current day SNL skit right
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
100%.
and it was
Absolutely.
so well done.
Yeah. Masterpiece.
Yeah.
I was like, they're playing off like they believe the news story they're making up. It's just
They're making it
Mhm.
up as they're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
But
going,
Only
I
a
can't
mile.
believe that would happen to these people. It's Americans
And
off the coast of Massachusetts. What?
But it wouldn't have been a vote. Yeah. It had to have been a submarine.
Yeah.
Obviously. 'Cause
it
otherwise
was
they
it
wouldn't
was
have
the
been told.
evolution of it. It was so great because he's like 15.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so it's like 10. Well, maybe 5. It's just a couple. Well,
Yeah.
if it's a couple, it might as well be ours. A couple of ours. Well, now it's 5. Well, if it's 5, it might as well be 10. You know,
Well,
let's just
let's
go back
leave
to
it
the
at
original
15,
numbers.
and
So
then
they'll
that's
then they can't say we changed anything.
15 fishermen in critical condition after a collision with a Russian submarine a mile outside of Boston Harbor. Unbelievable. They're going to start World War III if they're not careful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely would have happened
Mhm.
this week. I mean, it's certainly not like, spy balloons or anything. It's
Right.
completely different.
It's totally
No.
different.
Completely
Totally,
different.
totally
Not
different.
totally.
A couple of times there were sort of like little text things at the bottom And
Those always got me
so
too.
I was
Mhm.
like, so there was one of them was like Ralph Nader, your car is ready, right? Was that one of them?
Right?
And then the other one was like Hugh Hefner is alive, and boy is he living. It's like, okay.
Well, and so I'm watching it on Tubi, and I didn't go full screen with it, and
Yeah,
all I saw at first was Ralph Nader.
yeah.
It was cut off, and then I'm like, "What, Ralph Nader?" And I scroll down a little bit, and I just see your car is ready. I'm like,
What is
what does that even mean? Why?
So I did
And
go
that
back
tells you
because
how long Ralph Nader was a joke, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
For
2
real.
made a joke about that in 1990.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
so there is somebody who has like a Substack page that goes back 20 years of The Onion. And
Mm.
so I went back 20 years of The Onion to see like how many headlines I could sort of put a context around, and it was very few. I was like, I don't
Mhm.
remember like this. I'm sure it was important at the time, but I have no idea what we're talking about now, you know, which was a big part of it. Um and then so Lacutus has brought up that there's a
Mhm.
clock behind the announcer that was always changing. And sometimes like they would just walk up and change, like
Yeah.
you would just see them
Physically
moving the
changing.
hands.
Mhm.
They're like, hang on, let me adjust. Let's see. We had a talent show on this particular episode, which was a lot. The French
It-
Canadian step dancer
That was
was
so good.
probably the best part.
I actually wrote down that I was unsure if that was an actual Canadian step dancer, and I was like, he's not bad, but I don't know if it's real or a joke.
No,
well,
I think we're making fun of the French Canadians.
Yeah, feels that way.
but it's close. The thing about that one was, if you've watched other episodes of Laughing, occasionally they would get somebody like the pilot episode. And I know Amy brought this episode up last week,
Yeah.
but the pilot episode of it did that same bit, but he brought out Tiny Tim, which is referenced
Mhm.
in this episode when Dick is like,
Mhm.
"Wait, you're not bringing
You
out
gotta
Tiny
bring
Tim
Tiny Tim
again?"
again.
And that was just somebody that wasn't a cast member coming out and doing something like a lot of these were. It was just Tiny Tim came out, did his routine, and then left. And so I wasn't
Because
sure. Like,
if you see Dick's face with Tiny Tim, it is very good.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
he
amazing.
is
I did
so confused.
I did catch up on Tiny Tim, and now after watching a full episode of this, I understand now what I was watching. It elevated the concept quite a bit.
Mhm.
So then we get Pyotr Roshenko or Rosmenko,
The
the
Rosmenko
the Russian
twins.
who
That was
escaped, and he's
great.
got his twin brother now. And it's Sammy Davis
That was
Jr.
hilarious.
Okay, and so they're singing in Russian. They're not. Um
Mhm.
and they finally like it devolves pretty quickly. And so
I
it's
was gonna
really great
say.
because then Rowan and Martin are going back and forth about like, so they're twins, huh? Yeah, I can't, but it's hard to believe because one's so much taller than the other one.
So many height jokes about Sammy Davis
Yeah.
Jr. too.
So many
Very
height
much
jokes
so.
about Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, he's taller. That was in the. I love this show because this show has it's Goldie Hawn is the epitome of the dumb blonde, but all the brunettes are funny. So that's Tina Fey. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They walked so
You're
she could
just
run.
welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The Ruth Buzzy joke during the party. Like I have this nightmare and this big hairy man overpowers me and I tell my psychiatrist it's not gonna happen. And that's the nightmare part. Yeah, so after the talent party, it's like, yeah, if you want to vote for your favorite, you dial your operator. Well, you can't tell them to dial the operator. That's not like you can't. Well, that's what I do in an emergency. Well, what does that have to do with the talent show? I think you want to call the cops after some of these. So we had the recurring judge.
Oh
Here
gosh.
comes the judge
Those are so
bits.
good.
Mhm.
Again, many of these could just slide right in. So what brings you in? Two policemen. Drunk again? Yep, both of
Both of
them.
them. This is the
Unbelievable.
part where it occurred to me that this feels like an Americanized Monty Python. Like whenever
Yeah.
that skit came up,
Mhm.
I was like, all right, we're in silly territory now. We're in
Mhm.
Brit silly, but with American wisecracking. That's where
Yes.
we're at.
And
I was able to pick up on that. I see what we're doing here.
yeah, and I love that it was always the same two people
Oh
that
yeah,
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
keep coming back and just running that joke over and over. And Henry Gibson is great, and
Mhm.
he's perfect. He's perfect in that role. And I just, I loved those. What was it? The other one was, I found him not guilty or whatever, or innocent of stealing. He's like, great, so I don't have to give back the watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
Or the other one was you know, something about stealing fruit from a fruit stand. All right, 30 years for impersonating a police officer.
Yeah,
I just love that I recognized that dude from the Burbs. I just was like, I was,
yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV. Ah, Dr.
Uh-huh.
Klopek. I knew that
Yep.
guy. I was like, I
The
recognize
Burbs
him.
and the Burbs and the Blues Brothers. That's what I always think of him
Yes.
from.
Mhm.
Yes.
And just the final clubbing over the head with whatever that bag was.
Whatever.
Every
Yeah.
time.
Every
Yeah.
time.
That there was the recurring "May I have this dance"
Mhm.
was another great one.
Which
Mhm.
got progressively more ridiculous, right? Because the first
Yep.
one, she stands up and smacks him in the face, which you go, I mean, it's funny, like it's
Yeah.
slapsticky funny, but you go, well, yeah, no, that's a thing that can happen. And it just,
When she's attached to the chair.
uh
It's like
huh.
great.
Yeah.
It's like buckled
When
into the chair and gets up. It's just
he takes her arm and it takes the whole arm and the entire
And the
dress, and he
dress.
just
Mhm.
walks away with it.
Or he's been over and he never actually raises back up. His head
Hmm.
is just out of chest, backing up and dancing.
His pants rip and then he just backs away
Just
slowly.
gone.
I loved those recurring bits because that does have that feel of that Monty Python type sketch where it's just
yeah.
we're gonna throw in something.
Yep.
The window thing is the same. It's like there was a Monty Python sketch where they would or there was an episode where they would just cut to a tree all the time, and it was just the
Yes.
larch, and then they'd go back to whatever they were doing, and they just do that like 4 times in the episode, and that's what these all felt like to me. Was just
Yeah.
those little interstitials that were just, we don't know how to end this thing. And cut to something weird and
Yeah.
go
We
back
don't
to
have to.
doing
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
The "Here Comes the Judge" thing cracked me up because it honestly looked like they grabbed Sammy Davis and he had no idea what they were going to do, and they shoved him in a judge's outfit, threw a wig on him sideways, and pushed him out on stage. It had that flair to it, like just go. And
Yeah,
he's, here
Hmm.
comes the judge, here comes the judge, just like flapping or whatever he had going on. Just had to make up
Well, it's,
some dance on the fly.
and it's funny because it felt like, okay, do it this way. Okay, do it that way.
Mm,
Okay, come back this way. Come back that way. And you see it throughout the show, and it's like he keeps winding down, and
yeah.
it's like I'm sure they did it in one big long take and edited it up, but throughout the show, you're just like, here comes the judge. Here comes the judge.
He's wearing out. He's like, is it even funny anymore? I've done this 18
Mhm.
times. Also, did anybody catch Sammy Davis's heels during that skit? Because they were a good
Hmm.
4
hmm
inches. They were,
Oh,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
they
yeah,
were up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I'm
There
not
was
the only one.
also, yeah, there was the recurring bit of Dan and the camera.
yep.
There was the this will
Mhm.
take a picture in 2 minutes flat, and I'm pretty sure that was Twiggy,
hmm
which I thought was pretty funny. Um,
2 seconds flat, and then Twiggy.
Twiggy.
Whatever your eye sees, there's
Hmm.
just a big eye.
I. Yep. The colored photo.
Saw that one
It's
coming.
just, I saw,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like,
The
oh,
yeah.
yep.
second he says it, you're like, oh, here we
Here it
go.
is.
We got a black guy on the show. We can make that joke this week.
Oh
Yep.
gosh, yeah. And they used that ability over and over and
Yes,
over
they
again.
did. Yes, they did. I thought his bit about when they move in, they're not, we're not idiots. We move into a neighborhood, the prices go down. We buy up all the land and then we move out.
That was so good. That was
So
so
good.
good.
So 1968 was an Olympic year. And this particular episode had their look forward to the
hmm
Olympics. And there were a few good bits in this part. This is where we get Goldie Hawn in her bikini go-go dancing with her signs like be an athletic supporter. Uh,
Classic.
which is quite good.
Mm.
Um, I thought that the ladies of the Olympics bit was absolutely hysterical because they're talking about like oh why are you how it's a whole song and it's about like oh how did you become a broad jumper well when the guys start pinching any broad can jump or oh why'd you learn to swim well I was just a farmer's daughter and then he came to this man came to town and got me on hot water my only option was to swim and it's just very good.
Oh, I loved that. I loved the basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
They had the
The
Czech Republic
Croatian.
basketball team or Croatian basketball
Yeah.
team, and
Yeah.
they bring out Elgin Baylor, who's
Yes.
a actual NBA player. And but
With
I
the
love because
biggest
they,
patch telling you what country they
It
are
was
from.
infamous.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I loved how like they just show them dunking the basketball, and then when they walk over, and it's the three shortest people on the cast, and it's
Which
such
I
a
mean,
good
it's
gag.
it's funny because you know it's coming because you know
Hmm.
that they are tiny tiny
Yes,
men. Like
yes,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. Like it's still funny. Um
I love the checking the sex of female athletes skit. That
so
was
I
Good
this
lord.
one I
Good
watched it
lord.
like the first time I was like I don't know. And then I was like, no, actually, I think this is accidentally super progressive.
yeah, really.
yeah,
Like
Oh,
upon second viewing, I
yeah.
think this is actually very progressive.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that was
I
what I
couldn't
was like,
figure it out though. I
ooh.
wasn't sure. I was like, is this bad? I don't
Yeah.
let me
yeah.
think about
That
this.
that started. They started down that path, and I was like, oh, whoa,
Wait.
Yeah.
No,
wait,
I think we're
Hmm.
okay.
hold on.
I think we're
No,
there.
we're good.
I think it's
And
fine.
then yet again, you're reminded that we still struggle with this crap.
This
Yeah,
is
we
what
Yeah.
I'm
have not
saying, right?
grown. Yeah.
Another one that could, you could just slide that
Hmm.
right in anywhere. Um,
And then just the stupid Argentinian runner.
so I
Oh,
Like,
Yep. I realized now that we're talking about it, right, with the giant, badges on their shirts showing their nationalities, because TVs were very small.
Yeah.
And so you
yes.
mhm,
had to have
that's
it
true.
giant. So you'd be like, ah, I can see.
Yeah, like 480p. No,
Yeah.
480i, probably less. How many lines were
Yeah.
on
Not even,
television back then?
not even
12?
that.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's like
240?
Yeah.
a baker's
it was like
dozen.
this.
Yeah.
So,
It was 8-bit.
And that bit with the runner from Argentina, I knew right where that was going.
Oh yeah.
The
yeah.
second they started dying, and it still made me laugh. It
Mm-hmm.
still was funny.
Oh, yeah. When he has that mustache and brings out the accent, you know where that's going.
You don't
Jawohl. I mean,
you don't
see.
you don't sound Argentinian. My papers are in order. And they cut
I
this
love that he's
very
wearing a gun, too. Just,
yeah.
he's got the Luger on his side.
And I like that they cut to because the German officer, the very interesting,
Yes.
is like he's a recurring character. Like cut to him, they're like,
That
oh,
was beautiful.
so good,
The way he runs.
unbelievable.
Just
Um, Dan and Dick trying to talk about the Olympics, is real good because Dan's like, you know, great, another topic that you don't know anything about. No, my uncle was in the Olympics for baking. What?
In Battle Creek, Michigan.
Battle Creek, Michigan. Yeah, he won 3 gold medals for cake baking. Came in ahead of Betty Crocker. Pillsbury lady, very upset. Just shows you don't mix religion and cooking. It's like, what?
what is
What
going
are
on?
you talking about? Oh, she was baking an angel cake at the time. He's like, we can't. We can't. There was a lot of the back and forth, a lot of the like, Dick would say something and Dan would be like, oh, clarifying question? Like, because Dick's like, well, I was a hockey champion. Oh, you were a hockey champion? Yeah, so was I. Like, just
Mhm.
This is
That's
something.
that vaudevillian.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
was
then they
gonna say
almost launch into a who's on first.
yes.
And he's like, we cannot do this.
This
Yeah.
is the stuff I miss though in
Mhm.
modern television. I wrote
Yeah.
down like the classic comedy duo where there's no like everybody now has to be in the spotlight. It's gotta be that guy, that comedian. Like when people
Yeah.
shared like that, Like, how many touring comedians did you see that go and stand on stage with someone else and like
We've
act?
lost the straight man.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we that was
Mhm.
so good, and it's still so good. You watch Abbott and Costello,
Hmm
show that to a 10-year-old. You know, they're like, I get it, I love it. The whole math and the sevens and all those skits that they used to do, like this
I
just made
just
me miss it so much.
Yeah, like just this week I saw a YouTube Reacts channel doing reacting to Who's on First, and
Yeah.
it was some
Mm.
they'd never seen it before. This guy knew nothing about Abbott and Costello. He was confused for the first like 30 seconds, and then something clicked and he figured out what was going on, and he just lost it. He was
Yeah.
Hmm
done.
Hmm.
And like
I,
so you bring that up that we don't have that in modern, and that I think is why, and it's a show I talk about a lot, I know, but Psych
Mhm.
is a show that had that dynamic because even though both of them are a little kooky, you had that sort of there was the straight man funny man thing going on between the two
Yeah.
of them, and all of the jokes involved both Sean and Gus, the two
mhm.
main characters, and you
I was,
could tell they had that influence from this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the other modernish take I would give you is Key and Peele. They
Yes.
did
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We had them,
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but
even
it's
then,
funny
it's
we
like
just
a
have had them.
right, and even then, a lot of times it's a sketch written like and filmed. It's not like a live performance kind of
Right.
Right.
deal, and I think that's what I liked
They
about this
do
is it felt like a
if you
live standing next to each other joking thing.
Mhm.
watch like the actual Key and Peele shows,
Hmm.
right? Like they are on a stage in front of people introducing their bits, and there
Yeah.
is a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about them is they do switch who's the straight man,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and it's pretty good.
And I gotta say, for whatever reason, it was on YouTube and I just watched it. Was the uh Obama speech at the whatchamacallit,
Mhm.
where he had King Michael Key be his angry voice.
Yeah, yeah. Where he did the bit in real life at
Uh-huh.
the press
Yeah.
dinner or whatever.
Right.
So good.
That
I
kind of
love them
stuff.
talking about that press dinner because he says the first thing Obama said to us is it's hard for a brother on TV. Which is just I feel like Sammy would probably
Mhm.
agree with you on that
Yeah.
one.
Hmm.
Um they also have the bit here where they talk about, because the Olympics were in Mexico City, which is at elevation. And so that was going to be a problem. The air is thinner, you're gonna have a problem breathing. And Dick says, fine, I've been breathing my whole life.
Uh, just
So
that style of humor and that delivery of those things is it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to have perfect chemistry with your partner in it.
yeah,
Hmm.
And if you get that, it is Abbott and Costello, it's Martin and Lewis, it's
yeah.
Rowan and Martin. Like
Mhm.
you can, it's just gold, but it's so hard to do well.
It's a
Yeah.
dance. It's honest
Hmm.
to goodness.
Yeah.
It is finding the right dance partner who can throw back and catch and know when to let the other person win this one and elevate the other side. Like it's a whole it's a
Hmm.
mutual respect and understanding of where each other's gonna go. It's like when you play music with somebody and you play with them 10 years and you just like click, like
Yep.
where they're headed when they play a certain thing and you've never played it
Yeah.
with each other before. I've got a buddy of mine, I swear, if we were to meet up and play music together, it would be just like we left each other 15 years ago. Just like that's the kind
Yeah.
of chemistry you're looking for in a comedy act as well. It's the
Hmm.
same jam.
And it's so rare
Yeah.
and hard to find. And like, I keep thinking about, if you haven't seen or heard, find interviews where um Jim Carrey and oh, what's his name? From Dumb and Dumber.
Jeff
Jeff
Daniels.
Jeff
Jeff
Daniels.
Daniels.
Yeah.
Listen to them talk about how they cast Jeff Daniels and how they found that chemistry, and Jim like fought to have him specifically be in that position with him because of the way they just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And hear them talk about that magic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's absolutely that. I think that's why, like, when I go back and look at Viva Variety, for instance, if the humor didn't land for you, what worked for me so well was the chemistry of the leads in that show. They
Sure.
could do that kind of humor and play off of each other really well.
Mhm.
Um, it's why something like Community works so great once they get rid of Chevy Chase, because everyone likes each other and
Yeah.
they all
Yeah.
get along and they play off of each other. And that's what works. That's what made Scrubs so good.
Yeah. The
Was
Office, same
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
thing. They're
all
all
of
Yeah.
that.
playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I go back to one we watched before, Perfect Strangers. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
watch them together today, and they're still laughing their heads off at stupid jokes, and like they've still got that repertoire together. Like,
But
Yeah.
not Laverne and Shirley.
Not
no.
Laverne
Too
No.
Shirley.
harshly
No.
learned.
No.
Fine.
And yet somehow they made it
And
work. So they're
somehow,
they're the exception that
Yeah.
proves the rule.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's what made this watching of Laughing so enjoyable was not only Rowan and Martin and their chemistry,
Yeah.
but everybody. That party scene is great because
Mhm.
it's joke after joke after joke, but they're all so well delivered.
And the
And
thing is,
like nobody's trying to step on anybody else.
this is still
Right.
the first season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're still, getting
Finding our
into it.
feet.
Yeah. So after the Olympics bit, we have the potpourri, which is unadulterated madness. Because up until this point, it's all been very reasonable and like well
Yes, of course.
organized, I guess. Um, so there's a pretty good joke about the man sitting in his chair and his wife is like tied up next to him and the cop shows up and he's like, "What happened?" "Well, I was out bowling and somebody broke into the house and blew up the safe, ransacked the house, stole and left my wife like this." "Oh, when did this happen, sir?" "A week ago, Monday."
And then the cop walks off. That's
Yeah,
what's
just gone.
brilliant. It's
Just
like,
that's it.
okay.
End of bit. We're good. Um, and then we have the bit with the first completely reconstituted human because surgical transplants are so good. And this is another one where I
Lord.
feel like I mean they all pretty like so one of her hands came from a CIA man and the other hand came from a man who was in the FBI. Well, how's that going? Not too well. My left hand never knows what my right hand is doing, which is not like again, like we're
It
just
hasn't
there.
changed in
Oh,
50 years.
Nope.
mhm.
Has not changed. And yeah, and so then this is the laughing is also the birth of the if so and so married so and so, they'd be so and so. Poopy Campo,
Betty Poop.
if Poopy Campo married Betty Boop, he'd be Poopy Boop, which Goldie barely gets through this joke.
I
Like
Yeah,
she
know.
she
has to
does.
think about it so hard, and I think that's like even like that's funnier
Yeah.
Mhm.
is that she has like she's putting
Especially
herself
thinking
through
about
it.
it, like this is probably like the fifth or sixth take. They're like,
Oh
just
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
Screw it. We'll
yeah.
take that one.
I didn't know that's where this came from because I've read these jokes before and I had no idea that
Yeah.
Laugh-In was the originator. The one I always think about that I read before was if Oprah Winfrey married Deepak Chopra, she'd be Oprah Chopra. So stupid. But now I have this context. I'm like, oh, that's where they got that from.
um,
Oh.
so we've got the Sakatumi bits, as we mentioned.
Yep.
At one point, there's a celebrity who says that we should sock it to Joey. Did you see who that celebrity was?
Mhm.
That
Well,
was
very,
crazy
Very,
because that was a very young Regis Philbin.
yeah, it was.
very young.
Uh,
Just a baby.
I was like,
we get
wow, his
to
hair wasn't gray at some point.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then we get to the homage to Ernie Kovacs and the bathtub sketch.
That
Yep.
was good.
And this is where another super secret celebrity
And
appeared.
as I was watching it, I saw him and I was
Mhm.
like, "Is that?"
Oh, it
And
is.
then I
Mhm.
went and looked later on and sure enough it was.
Yep.
Who's been on this show before.
Mhm. Harry
uh
Belafonte
just coming out of a bathtub.
just
What?
walking
I
out
was
of
like,
bathtub and walking
okay,
away. Like
okay.
they had him there
That's
for
it.
that. That's it.
That was
That's all
it.
Uh-huh.
you
My theory is he's probably on a soundstage, right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
some intern is just like opening up the door, like seeing who's walking by and being like, "Come here."
Dad or just they're all outside for a smoke break. Like, hey, Harry, you want to come do a bit with
Hey,
us?
come here, come do a bit.
Gosh,
And it's a
smoke
funny
breaks.
gag too.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a funny gag All those bathtub gags were great, but that one, because they just kept going. Like it was funny, and then it got to the point like they're still doing this bit, like there's still people walking out of the bathtub, and then it
Mhm.
Mhm.
rolled back around to just being funny again.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and then there's
Uh,
also the interstitials all throughout the episode of John Wayne just randomly
Yeah.
that I thought was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, because why not?
He's
Why
walking
not?
by
because
the time. Smoke break. You're probably
I
right.
think. Well, no, I think what a lot of those are, right? I mean, I imagine is that every time they have somebody on, they also record a bunch of
Sure.
that stuff
Hmm.
mhm,
that they can splice in randomly later for whatever.
I mean, when I think of kooky '60s comedy, I go right to John Wayne.
Yeah.
Obviously. But he was a guest on an episode,
Hmm.
at least one, probably more.
I think he was a
Um,
lot. Like I saw some stuff where
yeah,
it was like he helped with the 100th episode. Like,
yeah. Um, so Judy Carn keeps getting it in the sock it to me bits, right? It is socked exclusively to her. Um, and so when she winds up on stage with Sammy Davis Jr. and she's like, they're like, it's just us. We're gonna do let's do a number. Let's do Singing in the Rain. She's like, they are not gonna get me because there's no way you're too big of a star. I'm safe for the first time. This is great. And so they do a little Singing in the Rain. He's like, "See, you're fine. Don't even worry about it." She's like, "Can we do it again?" He's like, "Yeah, sock it to me." Absolutely drenched. So good. And the best part is that he's like, "What just happened?" And she's like, "You said sock it to me." Flash. Amazing.
Bucket of water.
Amazing.
I thought he was safe too. Like this entire episode, Sammy Davis doesn't get one actual singing thing
No,
at all. Like he
no,
doesn't
Nope.
make through
Mm-mm.
any of them
no.
actually singing anything, which I'm sitting
My
here expecting it at some point. After the other variety shows we've watched, I expect there to be just a regular musical number.
There's a
Yeah.
Nope.
minimum of 3 times that he tries. No, 4 times that he tries,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's the he's at the piano and he
Mhm.
sings and breaks the vase, and that's
Uh-huh.
Black Power. There's the tap dance number, which has
That was
so
so
much
funny.
lead up. It has
Mm-hmm.
That
so much
was
lead up because the 4 guys are there and he comes
mm,
out, and the second his cane hits the floor, it crumbles and he falls on the floor, and the guys just break their canes and
Yep.
throw their hats at him, and he's just curled up on
I
the
laughed
floor.
so hard at that one. It was such a great bit of
Oh,
slapstick
so
physical
good.
comedy. It was perfect.
Unbelievable.
Like it just killed me.
Well, and I
Mhm.
appreciated that he never got through a musical number.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that it just totally threw my thoughts out the window. It's like,
Hmm.
no, this isn't that kind of show.
No.
Oh, I
No. It
love
could
Sammy
be, but
Davis.
it's not.
He was such
Listen,
a
he got
wonderful guest.
he and his twin
Yes,
got to sing.
Yeah, they
he
did.
Yeah.
did.
That's true.
Um then there's the Singing in the Rain, and then there's a bit at the very end after we say goodnight Dick. Um and he's like trying to do a dance and he falls through, like the trap door opens, and or
Mm-hmm.
he's like tapping his foot or whatever, he's like beating time. I forget exactly how it goes, but basically the floor opens up under him and he falls through. So we have the end of the show in which it's time to say goodnight Dick, and um Dick has to get the last word in because we have to derail the end of the show also. We've derailed every other moment in the show, so we might as well derail the end of the show. And so here's the thing. So this joke turns up a couple of times in this episode. And it's does the name Rudy Begonia mean anything to you? All right, so like I feel like I needed like an annotated Cliff Notes version for this list because I did a lot of Googling trying to piece together. So Rudy Begonia was a from Amos and Andy way back, but more
Okay.
importantly, the does the name Rudy Begonia mean anything to you was a Flip Wilson line that he regularly used in his stand-up routines, which is why so Sammy used it as an homage to Flip.
Huh.
Everybody's tied into this show.
It's so
It's real
great.
good. I'm tying it. I'm
Nice.
wrapping
Yeah.
everything up here.
We've weaved quite the
Mm.
tapestry of old
We
TV.
have.
Yeah. Um, it is really fun. Like, I don't understand the 14 days on a raft with a live like, okay, great. Um, and then so then we get the under the credits, we get the famous laugh-in joke wall. Which is probably the part I remember the best
Yeah,
from Laugh-In.
definitely.
Like, I think that's the most iconic. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing I remember the most about laughing is the joke wall, and it didn't happen until the very end, and I kept
yeah,
waiting for. I'm like, where's it going to be? I thought it was, and maybe they did later on in the series
sure.
mix it in throughout the
Right,
episode because I
right,
feel like that's what I remember.
right.
But
Maybe it
yeah, I
wasn't.
just kept
Maybe it was
waiting
just
for
at
it.
the end.
And see
Um,
here, I'm somebody who doesn't know Laugh-In, so we get to Goodnight Dick, and then it's the laugh. I'm like, wait, when does this show
Yeah.
actually end?
well, you gotta make people watch the credits. It's like
Apparently.
a Marvel movie. You
Yeah.
got to put the stinger at the end. Um, there were a lot of good ones. There was Sammy, I plan to run in Mississippi. For what? The border. Um, real simple ones. I dropped a bundle in the market. Oh, what happened? Bag broke. Unbelievable. Veronica Lake married Corbett Monica. She'd be Veronica Monica. Uh, this is like classic dad joke territory. Pet shop owner told me those bulldogs were $15 a piece. Well, how much is a whole one?
That is a very good dad joke.
Um, a myth is an effeminate moth, which is not
That
as
got
good
me.
as the Muppets version of the myth joke, which
Right.
is myth. Yes, that's a myth.
Uh-huh.
Better version of that joke. Um, Sammy Davis Jr. doing the "If I only have one life to live, let me live it as a blonde" went off the rails pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, the follow-up to that is what killed me.
Yeah,
Absolutely killed
That
me.
yeah,
yes, that
Don't bother
follow up
me. I'm
is
bleaching the colored kid's hair. Oh
so
my
funny.
god.
And then the fact that, and then it's, and then what's her name does the "Here comes the judge."
Mhm.
yes.
Uh, uh, the implication being that Pam Austin. The implication being that that's what Sammy looks like now. Just so
Mhm.
good. And then at one point, um, I forget who it just starts doing punchlines. No jokes,
Mhm.
just punchlines. If I
Yep.
could walk that way, I wouldn't need talcum powder. Uh, um, like to get to the other side of the road. And it just I, and then it's at the very end that we get like this was recorded earlier so that Sammy Davis Jr. could do his final act, and they just through the trap door.
Mhm.
There goes there goes the judge.
There goes the judge. Got me. Loved it.
Unbelievable. So boys, what did we think of Laugh-In, Steven?
I need more of this in my life. It was just fantastic. I love the joke wall because I've always been a fan of giant walls with random doors. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
not a thing you see often, but when I see one, I'm like, look at that. Look at that giant wall with all those doors. That's great. People popping out of them and saying stuff. That tickled me. And I would watch Sammy Davis read the phone book. Like, that guy's got so much charisma in his pinky finger. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's also one of my favorite All in the Family episodes. So he's around, you know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Loved it. Yeah, I loved laughing. I miss vaudevillian comedy duos. I want that back in the world. So if you're out there and you got a buddy, just go give it a try because you might make it.
How about you, Audie?
Oh no, I loved it. It's funny. When I watched it, I was not I was it was after this it's been a long week and
Mm-hmm.
we've had stuff happening and so watching it I was like kind of meh as I was watching it, but sitting here talking with you guys, I was like, "Yep, that was funny. Yep, that was funny. Yep, that was funny." And it's really funny watching this now, having no real context for it after watching Hee Haw back in the day, and then watching their episode recently and seeing the bones of this show
Hmm.
Yeah.
in Hee Haw, and
Mhm.
seeing how much they took from that and used that and ran with it, and just how much it's like, well, I mean, it was a great format. It works so
Yeah.
well for laughing. Why wouldn't you do it in another kind of
Genre.
genre?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is great.
Awesome. Trav.
Well, I'm gonna watch more. It's so good. Even jokes and references that I don't have a frame of reference for still
Yeah.
can be very funny. And I am a huge fan of just like the shotgun style humor of throw a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of jokes at me because number one, half of them are gonna land and it's great. And the other part is that then it gives me a rewatch thing because now I can hear the jokes that I missed because I was too busy laughing the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's the mixture of the types of humor. It's the dumb slapstick, and it's the wordplay humor, and it's the recurring jokes. Loved all of it.
The
Definitely
sight
will watch more.
gags, because like the
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
clock thing, like you're not bringing attention to it, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
happening in the background. I love that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yes.
Awesome. We've
Yep,
had quite a variety of variety shows,
we have.
and I thought they were all pretty good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was all a good time. But we are moving on. We are moving on, and you, our listeners, voted for the next topic, which are educational shows.
Woo.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I've already chosen my show and episode. I chose my show and episode the day we put that topic in our little spreadsheet.
Holy cow!
I I have been prepared for this in a way that I've been
Oh,
prepared for no show previously. So
fantastic.
It's
first,
funny. We picked the topics last week just
yeah,
before, and it's like went back to actually vote, and I was like, yeah, no, I want educational shows, even though that wasn't the one I picked.
that's
So
fine. I also
not
voted
gonna
for one
lie.
that I didn't pick, even though I put educational shows on the list. Because
It's
that's how
amazing.
we do things around here.
Yeah.
Uh, so first up for educational shows is our good old friend Travis. Travis, what are we doing?
So we are going to, and I don't have an episode chosen yet, but I will have it chosen soon, and it will be either in the show notes and on Twitter
Yeah.
which episode it is. But we are going to go back and visit a show that is very near and dear to my heart, Square One TV. We're
Yes.
going to learn some math.
Yes.
Steven, I have a feeling you have never seen Square One TV, and I
Because
cannot wait
this is
for
another
you to
one of
watch
those
it.
things where Steven being a couple years younger
Yep.
for educational shows, it's like a
Yeah.
vast gulf.
Yeah, it's a
And
Mhm.
big
so
difference.
this is very exciting.
So
I'm
this
very
this
excited.
was a show that I watched all the time as a kid. I can remember all sorts of parts and bits of it, and there are actors in this show that I have seen that have appeared in dozens of other movies and television shows, and I always know them from Square One. That's how big of an impression it made on me.
Holy
Yep.
cow!
So I cannot
Hmm.
I cannot wait for this. I will have an episode chosen soon. I mean, they're all good, but I got to find the
I
right
mean,
one.
I have a pretty good idea. We'll talk about it. I am very excited. I also loved Square One. And it did give me a deep love of math until that was beaten out of me in high school. It was great. Very excited. Everything I know about the Fibonacci sequence I learned from Square One.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, that's how I learned about the Fibonacci
Yeah,
sequence was Square
yeah,
One.
yeah. So good. I am very excited about this. I'm sure all of you listeners also have a favorite educational show from back in the day. We have a million places where you can reach us, and I'm gonna let Travis tell you what they all are because I don't know them. I know we're on the Twitters, and I know we got the
On
emails, but I'm
on
bad
the
at it.
Twitters, yeah, we're on the Twitters at Those Days Show. So definitely, do you have a favorite educational show? Do you remember Square One TV, or do
Mm-hmm.
you have something else that that you remember as just a fun show that taught you stuff? Let us know. Those Days Show on Twitter, or Those Were the Days Show at gmail.com.
Thank you, Travis.
We want to hear from you.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Well, I think it's time to say goodnight, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
For me, for Stephen, for Audie, and for Travis, thank you for listening. And we'll see you all next week.
Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge.
Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me.